Hi everyone, thanks for checking out this video. So this is going to be the first lesson in this new series I'm making on transcriptomic data analysis. And my goal here is basically to provide like a brief introduction. So the eventual goal of this series is is that we're eventually going to actually download a real data set and do some kinds of different analyses on it to practice with like transcriptomic data analysis. But before we get into that, I just want to talk about like what is transcriptomics. So the first thing I'm going to tell you guys about is this thing called the central dogma of molecular biology. So basically, the central dogma describes the flow of information from genes in the DNA to messenger RNA to proteins, which then go on to actually like carry out various functions within the cell. So basically, the way it works is that there are segments in the DNA called genes. There's sequences of nucleotides, and these segments of DNA basically have the instructions for how to make strands of messenger RNA. So they get made into strands of messenger RNA, and then the messenger RNA strands are used to produce proteins, and then the proteins then carry out various jobs and functions within the cell. For example, they could be involved in signaling or like the actual like structure of the cell or the cell's metabolism or a lot of different other things. But yeah, the proteins basically do the work of the cell. So yeah, this first step is called transcription. This is the process where mRNA is transcribed from the gene in the DNA. And then the second part here is called translation. So this is the part where the mRNA is translated into the protein. And by the way, you guys might also hear strands of mRNA called transcripts because they come from transcription. And this is also where this word transcriptomics comes from. So if you guys aren't already aware, you hear this suffix omics a lot in bioinformatics. So there's genomics, which is the study of the genome or the genes, basically. There's also proteomics, the study of the proteins, and then transcriptomics is the study of the transcriptome, which is basically all of these mRNA transcripts. And by the way, some of you guys might be thinking, if you're familiar with a bit of biology, you might be thinking that I'm leaving a lot out here. And I kind of am, because this is a simplified model of things. So, for example, in real life, you might not have the gene be all one continuous sequence. It might be like different parts of the gene located at different parts along the DNA that have to eventually be like spliced together. I've also left out like the splicing of the mRNA, removal of the introns, if you guys know what that is, and then I've left out kind of some more steps here. I've left out like the epigenetic factor of this too. So this is definitely a simplified model, but I think it's still useful as like a general conceptual framework of the flow of information from DNA to mRNA to proteins. Also, just question for you guys too. Bonus points for anyone who in the comments can tell me an example in biology where information flows the other way. Is there another example you can think of where information flows from RNA to DNA? So yeah, bonus question for you guys. If anyone in the comments can give me an example of that, I'll be impressed. So one last thing to consider here too is that while the DNA is pretty stable, the mRNA and proteins are a bit unstable. So after they're created, they kind of float around in the cell for a little bit and then eventually break down. So that's what these circles with the lines through them mean here. That means that these molecules exist for a little bit in the cell and then they eventually like break down. So if you consider a cell at like different points in time, you might find different numbers, different abundances of these mRNA and protein molecules. So that was an example for only considering one gene, but we can also think about considering multiple genes in this model. So, for example, if we have gene 1 and gene 2, we can model this two gene system as gene 1 producing mRNA 1, which is then translated into protein 1, and gene 2 producing mRNA 2, which is then translated into protein 2. So a key thing to note here is that these mRNA strands correspond to their respective genes. And it's not always exactly a one-to-one correspondence. You actually can have, in some cases, genes coding for different strands of mRNA that can get spliced together differently. But that's a bit complicated. So for the purposes of this tutorial, we'll just consider it as if each strand of mRNA corresponds to its respective gene and to its respective protein also. Again, bit of a simplification to be able to conceptually make sense of this. And you can also have situations where the protein being produced by one gene can influence the transcription of another gene. So maybe this protein produced by gene 1 could be positively impacting the transcription of gene 2, leading to more of mRNA 2 being produced when, for example, if this protein 1 is binding to the DNA here and facilitating transcription. Or you could have a situation where the protein from gene 1 is blocking transcription of gene 2. So that's just like a quick example of introducing a bit of complexity here and starting to think about how this could lead to complicated things going on in the cell, like with networks of these genes impacting each other. Now it's time to actually get to the title of this video. What is transcriptomics exactly? So we said transcriptomics has to do with the transcriptome, which is the collection of all of these mRNA strands in the cell. And so the idea is, with modern experiments, it's possible to measure the abundances of all of these different mRNA strands and use them as like a measurement of the expression of each gene. So, for example, if we did a measurement experiment and we recorded these mRNAs, we could see how much mRNAs are being produced by gene 1 and how much are being produced by gene 2. And the data from these experiments basically looks something like this. So we can think about like a matrix where the rows are genes and the columns are different samples that we do this experiment on. And then, so we have all of these genes. I put 5 here, but realistically it's more like 20,000 or so. But yeah, just to be able to visualize it, I put 5. And then I put 6 samples here where the first 3 are tumor samples and the second 3 are healthy tissue samples. So often the idea of this kind of experiment is to have samples from 2 or more different conditions to try to see what the difference is in terms of gene expression under these different conditions. And then so basically every entry within this matrix is basically giving a measurement of how many messenger RNA strands were found that correspond to each gene. So here we can see that there were 11 mRNA strands detected that correspond to gene 1, and 2 for gene 2, 3 for gene 3 in this first sample at least. And then we can see how that changes both across the tumor samples, and then compare that to the healthy tissue samples. And there are a couple different types of experiments that give you this kind of data matrix. So the older type of experiment is something called microarray experiments. So that's one way of measuring the mRNA content of the cells. It's kind of an older method. These days, a lot of people use something called RNA sequencing, or RNA-seq for short. And there's 2 kinds of that. You could hear bulk RNA-seq or single-cell RNA-seq. So that's kind of what it sounds like. Bulk RNA-seq makes a sample out of multiple cells, and single-cell RNA-seq can do each cell individually. But anyway, if you want to learn more about the experiments, I'll put some links in the description to learn more about them. But the technical details of these experiments are a little bit beyond the scope of this series. But the important thing to recognize for this series is that all of these different transcriptomic experiments end up giving you some kind of data matrix that looks something like this. Although, depending on what kind of experiment you're seeing, you might not be seeing integers like this. You might be seeing like floating point decimal numbers here. So usually when you see integers, that means that what you're looking at is the actual counts of how many strands of mRNA were detected. Whereas if you see floating point numbers, that usually means you're looking at a normalized data set where the data has been normalized somehow. But whichever kind you're looking at, it'll typically take this form where you have different genes on one axis and different samples on another, where samples come from maybe 2 or more different conditions, and then for each gene in each sample, we have some measurement of how expressed that gene was, meaning how many mRNA strands did we detect for that gene. Now, our challenge and the point of this tutorial series is, what do we do if we have a matrix like this, except instead of 5 genes, it's 20,000 genes, and instead of 6 samples, it's hundreds of samples. So when we have that kind of like really big data set, how do we make sense out of it? How do we actually use that data to come up with some kind of biological insight about what's going on? And that's really a general theme in bioinformatics, is like when you have some kind of very large data set out of one of these modern biology experiments, often sequencing experiments, when you have a ton of data like that, how do you actually make sense of it and arrive at some kind of like real biological insight about what's happening? So yeah, that's going to be basically the goal of this series, is to look into that and learn some techniques for doing that kind of analysis. So that's all I have for you guys for this video. This was just a bit of an introduction. In the next video, I'm going to show you guys where to find publicly available data sets like this, and we're going to practice with downloading one of them and taking a look at it, and basically, getting a hold of a real data set and seeing what it looks like. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.